have a tattoo, you're part of a cultural history that dates back for over 8,000 years. Today, tattoos are all about representing someone's personality, creativity, and it's how they express who they are. Now today, I'm joined by Aima. She has been a tattoo model for over 15 years, along with other things. But today, I want to know how she's found the industry has changed towards people with tattoos. Hi Aima, how are you?
I'm good.
Thank you for joining me.
No worries.
Now, first of all, a bit about yourself. Talk me through your style of your tattoos.
Basically, I've been getting tattooed for quite a long time now. And when I first started, it was just essentially another extension of my personality and the fact that I wanted to constantly create, which was what I was doing. I'm always very artistic, and I just wanted to translate that on my body as well. I mean, I always used to dress quite, eccentrically, I think is a word that people say nowadays. But yeah, it was just an extension of the fact that I used to dress like a nutter, so I may as well finish it all off,
So how old were you when you got your first one?
Well, I got my first one when I was 16, and just didn't really stop from there.
So your whole plan the whole time that you were going to go ahead with how you are today?
Yeah. Well, from day dot, I wanted to look like this. I'm still not complete, but I've always wanted to be this.
So I can see, looking at your tattoos now, it's very 80s inspired theme. So are these all close to your sort of childhood personalities of what you watched growing up?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been obsessed with happy fantasy lands and things, so 80s cartoons were something that I enjoyed a lot. And yeah, it was just natural that I would want to put them on my body.
So how did you get into tattoo modelling? Was it something that you had planned, or is it something that just happened?
No, I mean, it's very different compared to nowadays. I never woke up and was like, oh, I'm going to be a tattooed model, I'm going to get some tattoos and be a model. That was never it. I was just always bonkers, and people wanted to photograph me. And back then it was more sort of like token freak, we need a weirdo to spice things up. And I fitted the bill back then, so that's the progression to now. Is basically I've been through being the freak to now being more of a fashion accessory.
So tell me about the sort of the best sort of gig that you've done.
I've done loads of amazing shows. I've been really privileged, but I think the highlight for me was possibly doing the Jean-Paul Gaultier catwalk, and I think that was spring/summer 2012, and I did that for Paris Fashion Week. And I loved that. That was wonderful. To meet Jean-Paul Gaultier himself was lovely. How
did you even get to be part of that?
I did a shoot for a tattoo calendar for Paris Tattoo Convention, and the photographer recommended me to one of the creative team of Jean-Paul Gaultier, and they called me from there.
And how did you sort of interact with the other models? How did they approach you? How did they make you feel like you were sort of like the sort of freak of the show, or were they very welcoming to you?
It was a bit of a mix, to be honest, because I was considered by all of the mainstream media as a non-model, and whenever I was around the other models, I mean, some of them were really friendly. I got on with some of them. Others were a lot more distanced, to be honest. One of them even said that her father told her that people with tattoos were all criminals, so she wasn't going to speak to me. And I was like, cool, don't.
How did that make you feel? I mean,
don't care. I've suffered so much abuse over the years. Before being a weirdo was fashionable, the abuse we used to get, it's a lifestyle choice.
Yeah,
for sure. For me, it's not a fashion statement in any way. It's this is just what I am. I can't be any other way. I've tried.
Do you find that with the tattoos you have, that they define you, or that you define the tattoos that you create?
It's an interesting question. I'd like to think that I define my tattoos, obviously, but then from an outsider's perspective, they define me. So it depends on what angle you're looking at it, really,
So as you say, it's become much more mainstream, you find. I mean, with celebrities like David Beckham with tattoos.
He ruined all of it.
How do you feel about it becoming mainstream now, as you were saying that it was your thing, to your creativity, and now obviously with it being in the mainstream eye, you've got models like Cara Delevingne, you've got Kate Moss who sport the tattoos as well.
Yeah, but they're not tattooed models. They're just models that have a few tattoos here and there. So that's bound to bleed into all the different areas of life once it becomes mainstream. I mean, I'm sure when they started modelling, they were absolutely forbidden to have any tattoos whatsoever. But now, 10 years later, 15 years later, they are. So for them, that's obviously a good thing because they can express themselves. But it's a double-edged sword that it's mainstream, because now you have so many more talented artists. You have such an abundance of amazing artists emerging everywhere. It's no longer seen as something that's so taboo. And obviously it's easier for people to be employed now, although I've never had a problem. No matter how tattooed I've been, I've never been out of work. And that was one of the things that I always used to get judged openly on. So I'd be sitting on the tube and people would have open conversations about how I was obviously on the dole, or I had no job, or I was on drugs or whatever. So the double-edged sword obviously about mainstream tattooing is now that tattooing is a booming business, providing jobs everywhere for people. And it's also become, you know, a work of beauty. There's some, as I said, some beautiful work. But then on the other side, it's also become something that's just too accessible for people who don't have any creativity, that just copy work from high-profile artists. The Googleites, they just literally pick a picture off Google, I want that, and they just copy somebody else's tattoo. That isn't personal, that's not your tattoo. That is just a copy of something you've seen that you like, and that you should probably have more thought about, in my opinion. So I don't know, as I said, it's a double-edged sword, so it's good and bad.
So seeing all your work so far, I mean the pictures that we've done earlier, as I say, you are covered from head to toe in tattoos. As a woman, do you find that it's quite sexualised with the shoots that you do?
It is now. Tattooed women have definitely become almost a fetish. And it's very rarely that you'll see a shoot with a tattooed woman who actually has clothes on. And I think that's kind of the demographic now for tattooed models. I don't really know. I mean, there are so many amazing tattoo models out there at the moment that, you know, I'm lucky enough to call friends, and, you know, it's just the way that it goes. To be honest, it's lovely to do work when you don't have to take all your clothes off, which is what I'm pushing more towards. But in general, you know, as I said, it's become, tattooed girls are definitely a niche thing now,
So overall, within the fashion industry, as you say, you've been doing it for about 15 years now. You've seen the beginning to how it is now. How would you summarise tattoos within the fashion industry at the moment?
Within the fashion industry, well, on the catwalks now, there are heavily tattooed male models. There are a good few that regularly do the collections that I see, which is it's wonderful. They're very beautiful, very hot guys. I haven't seen a woman yet. I haven't seen a heavily tattooed woman on a general everyday catwalk.
Would you want to be that one?
I'd need to lose about 100 stone. Nah, I like chips. But no, I think because it's obviously more accepted in the guys' side of things, but it hasn't really smashed out onto the female side, has it really?